trending story on CBSMiami.com.
It involves talk of alien sightings at Bayside Marketplace.
The phrases Miami Mall and aliens of Miami have been among the top 10 searches on Twitter's trending tab.
We look back and we noticed some weird shapes taller than me. I'm 6'2", shadowy, dark, solid shapes, not human. I promise you, these is not human.
January 1st, 2024, 8:47 p.m. A woman is in her car in the Bayside Marketplace parking garage. She's trying to leave, but the exit is blocked. Police everywhere. She can't go forward, can't go back. So she waits. And that's when she sees it through her windshield. Something moving between the parked cars on the level below. She can see it through the gaps in the concrete barrier. At first, she thinks it's a person. Has to be, right? But then she realizes she's looking at it from the waist up, and she's on the second level. Whatever this is, it's tall enough that she can see the upper half of its body from a floor above. She watches it move. Smooth, too smooth, like it's on rails instead of legs. Her hands are gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles have gone white. The thing stops, and even though she can't see a face, can't make out any features in the dark, she knows it's aware of her. Her phone is in her lap. She wants to film this, needs to film this. But her hands won't move. I won't reach for it. Every instinct is screaming at her to stay completely still. Below, she hears voices, police radios, officers yelling codes she doesn't recognize. Then running, heavy boots on concrete. And that's when she hears something else, a sound she can't describe. Low, resonant, like a hum that she feels in her chest more than hears with her ears. The overhead lights in the parking garage flicker. Once, twice, and when they come back on, the thing between the cars is gone. 2 hours later, she's finally allowed to leave. A police officer escorts her car to the exit. She tries to ask him what happened, what that was. He won't look at her. Just says, "Some kids were fighting, it's handled, drive safe." But his hands are shaking. She hasn't been back to Bayside since. But we're going back, because what happened that night, the official story doesn't come close to the truth. January 1st, 2024, New Year's Day, Bayside Marketplace, Miami, Florida. If you've never been, picture this, an outdoor shopping center right on the waterfront. Shops, restaurants, street performers. It's the kind of place where families go, where tourists take photos, where everything feels safe and normal. On that night, the New Year's celebrations were winding down. People were still out, enjoying the warm Miami air, maybe grabbing a late dinner, walking along the water. It was normal until 8:30 p.m. That's when something happened, something that triggered a response Miami had never seen before. The official timeline goes like this. Reports came in of fireworks, then reports of a large group of juveniles fighting. Police responded to restore order. The mall was cleared. Crowds were dispersed. By the end of the night, several juveniles had been detained for trespassing, disorderly conduct, and fighting. By midnight, the official story was locked in. Teenagers, fireworks, standard procedure, case closed. But here's the thing. The response wasn't just big, it was massive. Over 60 police vehicles descended on Bayside Marketplace. 60. For reference, that's more cars than most cities use for riots. Multiple helicopters circled overhead, searchlights cutting through the night. Tactical units were deployed. The entire area was put on complete lockdown. For teenagers fighting in fireworks. Does that sound standard to you? Let's talk about what the police say happened. According to official reports, a large group of juveniles were fighting. Fireworks were set off, causing panic. Police responded as they would to any public safety disturbance. Several people were detained. No injuries, no weapons, no gunfire. And most importantly, they were very clear about this. No aliens, no creatures, no unknown entities of any kind. No officer reported seeing anything that couldn't be explained. But here's what you need to understand. Of course they're going to say that. Think about it for just a second. Really think about it. If even one police officer reported seeing something they couldn't explain, something that wasn't human, do you honestly believe that would make it into an official report? The panic that would cause? The media frenzy? The questions that would follow? They would never admit to that. Ever. It doesn't matter what they saw. It doesn't matter if every single officer on that scene witnessed something impossible. The official story would still be teenagers and fireworks. Because the alternative is admitting that something else is out there. And they will never do that. So when they say no officer reported aliens, you need to ask yourself, would they even be allowed to? Now let's talk about what the people who were actually there reported. Multiple witnesses described seeing figures that were 8 to 10 feet tall. Not kind of tall, not basketball player tall, impossibly tall. They described them as gray or shadowy in appearance, moving in ways that seemed wrong, too smooth, too deliberate, like they were gliding instead of walking.
Like a big ass shadow, but it was solid at the same time, like a few shadows, but they were solid at the same time, and it almost looked like they was coming our direction, like they was chasing us, but they was disappearing and reappearing closer. So I'm like, yo, what? So we start really moving. Next thing you know, we start hearing more gunshots, like these dudes start firing.
These reports came from different people in different locations around the marketplace. People who didn't know each other, people who had no reason to coordinate stories. And they all said the same thing. These weren't teenagers. Teenagers don't cast shadows that long. Now, most of what happened that night exists only in testimony, in people's words, in deleted videos and scrubbed social media posts. But there's one piece of evidence that got out before they could contain it. Insert video recording of the alien shadow figure at the mall. An overhead video, taken from a building nearby. It shows the police response from above. All those cars, the helicopters, the organized chaos of a major operation. And there, moving between the police cars, is a dark shape. Let me be very clear about this video, because the facts matter. The video is real, it's not edited, it's not fake. That's been verified. The shape in the video exists. It's actually there in the footage. You can see it, and police have acknowledged the video exists. They just say they haven't identified the shape as anything unusual. The official explanations? It could be a person walking, could be multiple officers overlapping from that angle, could be shadow distortion from the lighting and the way the video compressed. These are all possible explanations. But I want you to do something. If you can, pull up that video, pause it, look at the shape, look at the proportions compared to the police cars around it. Look at how it moves. That's not a teenager. And if it's just shadows and lighting, if it's just a visual trick from a grainy overhead video, then why hasn't anyone officially explained exactly what it is? Why leave it to most likely theories? Why not just say, that's Officer Rodriguez walking between cars, or that's a shadow from the helicopter spotlight? What aren't they saying? Now I know what some of you are thinking. This could all be coincidence. Bad timing, mass hysteria, people seeing what they want to see in a blurry video. Maybe, but the more I dug into this, the more pieces didn't fit together. The more questions led to walls instead of answers. If you want to see more investigations like this, if you want me to keep digging into the stories they don't want us asking about, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, and comment below. What unexplained event should I cover next? What story is keeping you up at night? Because what I'm about to show you, these details that don't add up, this is where it gets really strange. Let's talk about what a standard response actually looks like. When there's a fight at a mall, police show up, maybe 3 or 4 cars, officers separate people, take statements, maybe make arrests. The situation is handled in 20 to 30 minutes. People go home. That's standard. Bayside Marketplace got over 60 police vehicles. Multiple helicopters with searchlights circling for hours. Tactical units in full gear. A complete perimeter lockdown. Not crowd control. Not officers directing people to exits. A lockdown, like they were searching for something. This wasn't containment of teenagers. This was an operation. And here's another thing. The detentions. Official reports say several juveniles were detained. charged with trespassing, disorderly conduct, and fighting. Okay, that makes sense if the story's true, right? But where are the arrest records? Those are public. Where are the names? Where are the parents demanding answers on local news? Where's the follow-up? It's like they detained just enough people to make the story work, to check the box that says arrests were made. But nothing beyond that. And then there are the videos. Dozens of people were filming that night. Dozens. Because that's what we do now. Something crazy happens, we pull out our phones. Those videos were posted to TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. These videos were going viral everywhere. And within hours, many of them just disappeared. Accounts went private. Videos were deleted. Some people said their phones glitched while they were recording.
And what happened when my brother tried to record, everything turned off.
A loud explosion. That's what
There was a loud
everybody in there.
explosion.
Everybody run. All you seen was a bunch of little 14-year-old, like 15-year-old.
Out of here. Everything turned off. Everything.
Others said they were approached afterward and asked to delete their footage. The videos that remain are mostly shot from far away, mostly unclear. One person claimed to have close-up footage of something they couldn't explain. Their entire social media account vanished within 2 days. Now maybe they just got scared and wanted privacy. That's possible, but people don't usually just stop talking about something this big. They don't usually scrub their entire online presence because they filmed a fight, unless they filmed something else, something they were told to forget. The descriptions from witnesses are remarkably consistent. Not just tall, impossibly tall, 8, 9, maybe 10 feet. Not just dark, it was like watching a shadow pull itself free and stand up. Some witnesses said gray, others said black, but they all said the same thing about it. Something was off. The way light fell across it didn't make sense, and the way they moved. Gliding was the word that kept coming up. Not walking, not running, gliding, like their feet weren't quite touching the ground. But the most consistent thing people reported? The feeling. Overwhelming dread. Not fear of getting hurt in a fight or caught in a panic. Something deeper, primal. The kind of fear that lives in your DNA. The fear our ancestors felt when something was hunting them in the dark. This isn't the first time things like this have been reported, by the way. Tall, shadowy figures, appearing in populated areas, always followed by massive official responses, always followed by official denials, always followed by silence. What if Bayside wasn't the first time? What if it was just the first time this many people had cameras? And here's the question nobody wants to ask. Why there? Why then? New Year's Day, a transitional moment. 1 year ending, another beginning. Some people believe that makes the barriers between whatever is out there and us thinner. Bayside sits right on the water. There are theories that water holds significance for these things. Liminal spaces, thresholds. Or maybe it was the energy. Crowds of people, celebrations, emotional highs, all that energy concentrated in one place. Or maybe it was random. Maybe they're always here, moving among us, and we just finally saw them. Witnesses kept using the same word to describe what they felt when these things were nearby. An eclipse. Like something massive had passed between them and reality. Like they were suddenly in shadow, even though the lights were all around them. If you've ever felt that feeling, like something was there that shouldn't be, like you were being watched by something that wasn't human, comment eclipse below, because I want to know how many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me take you back to that mall, to the person hiding behind the counter. Now that you understand the context, now that you know this wasn't just about teenagers, let me tell you what else they saw. Through the gap in the security gate, through the window, they could see the shape more clearly. It wasn't just a shadow on the glass. It was solid, physical, and it was tall enough that even from their position on the ground, they couldn't see the top of it. It stretched beyond the storefront windows, beyond where their eyes could track. And then it paused, like it sensed something. They held their breath. Every cell in their body screaming at them not to move, not to make a sound, not to even exist. And through the window, they watched as police officers formed a line, not between the crowd and the stores, between this thing and the stores, not arresting anyone, not chasing teenagers, just standing there, a human barrier, facing something they couldn't see fully but knew was there. Eventually, an officer waved at the people hiding in the stores. "Go! Now! Don't look back!" And they ran. Every instinct telling them to turn around, to see what was behind them, but the officer's voice was still in their head. Don't look back. They made it to their car. The helicopters were still circling. The searchlights were still sweeping the area. They drove away and didn't stop shaking until they were home. They haven't been back to Bayside since. They can't, because now they see the shadows everywhere, in parking lots at night, in the spaces between buildings, in their peripheral vision. Or maybe they're not seeing anything new. Maybe they're just finally noticing what was always there. The nightmare started about a week later. The same dream, standing in that store, watching the shadow, but this time when it pauses, it turns. And they see what's looking at them. They wake up before they can remember what it looked like. And they're grateful for that. But the question remains, the one that won't leave them alone no matter how much time passes. What if it comes back? Here's what we need to consider. If this happened at Bayside Marketplace in Miami, it's happening elsewhere. The official denials make perfect sense now. They have to deny it, admitting that something unexplained walked through a crowded marketplace on New Year's Day, admitting that police responded to something they couldn't categorize or control. That would change everything. It would mean we're not alone, not in the way we always thought about aliens or UFOs or distant possibilities. It would mean something is here, with us, among us. So they give us teenagers and fireworks and tell us to move on. And most people do. But the questions remain. Why did such a massive police response deploy for what they call a standard disturbance? What was that shape in the aerial footage that still has no official identification? Where did all the witnesses go? Why did people who were vocal on January 1st go completely silent by January 3rd? What happened to all those videos? And the biggest question, are they still here? Are these things, whatever they are, still moving through our cities, our malls, our streets? Are they waiting for another moment when the veil gets thin enough for us to see them? Or have they always been here and we're just now starting to pay attention? I can't give you definitive answers. Nobody can. We may never get official confirmation. Not from the police, not from the government, not from anyone in a position of authority. Just because they say there's no evidence doesn't mean it didn't happen, especially when that evidence keeps disappearing. Investigating stories like this takes time. It takes research. It takes a willingness to ask uncomfortable questions and follow threads that most people won't touch. If you value this kind of content, if you want to support what the Silent Scream is doing, memberships are now open. Members get additional perks, and most importantly, you'll be directly helping this channel continue investigating these stories and bringing you the truth they don't want us to find. Your support means everything and is so greatly appreciated. Every single one of you watching this, whether you're a member or not, I appreciate you. Your support, your engagement, your willingness to question the official narratives, that's what makes this possible. Thank you. So, what really happened at Bayside Marketplace on January 1st, 2024? The official story is neat. It's clean. It makes sense. Teenagers fought. Fireworks went off. People panicked. Police responded with standard procedure. Case closed. Move along. But you've seen the footage. You've heard the witnesses. You know the questions that have no answers. You know the shape in that video. You know that 60 police cars and multiple helicopters aren't standard for a mall fight. You know witnesses don't just disappear and videos don't just vanish without reason. Maybe it was exactly what they said it was. Or maybe something walked through that marketplace that night. Something that wasn't supposed to be seen. Something too big, too strange, too impossible for any official report to ever acknowledge. Something that moved in the shadows between the police cars while helicopters searched from above. Something that made seasoned police officers form protective lines and tell people to run without looking back. And maybe, just maybe, they're still out there. Waiting. Watching. Moving through the spaces we don't pay attention to until it's too late. Don't let this story die in official reports and convenient explanations. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications, because if this happens again, and I think it will, we need to be watching. We need to be ready to ask questions before they can scrub the evidence. We need to keep eyes on the shadows, share this video, get people talking. The more of us who are paying attention, the harder it becomes for them to hide the truth. Stay vigilant. Question everything. And remember, the scariest cover-ups aren't the ones that hide the truth. They're the ones that make you doubt you ever saw it in the first place. This is the silent scream. Keep watching the shadows.